So yeah, his career is great, but I think the television aspect of it, because what he does is not easy, right? Like the game is a flow and you got to be on it. And yeah, you know, he's with Joe Buck and that guy's, you know, he's got the voice and he's like right on it, but to come in and to come out and be good and have chemistry, it takes time and he's worked at it, obviously.
Get the AI synopsis of who Rob Ninkovich picked for.
So Nico, this is how it works. Now we have a guest. Usually Julian and I break down two guys or three guys. We usually break down, talk about them for 10 minutes. But since you're the guest, we're just going to do one guy that we're going to break down. You have one guy
that you brought.
One guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And before we get started, I read a AI summary about the guy just to give a little glimpse of who we're going to talk about.
I'm not.
Here we go.
All right.
And the reason why I read it is because Julian's reading. There we go. There we go.
I remember.
And I knew Ninko was probably going to say that, so I just wanted to get ahead of the game.
Can't read in front of people.
Yeah.
I can't read.
Can't.
He can read a playbook.
Hey.
Standing at 6'4" and weighing 220 pounds. This Hall of Fame quarterback was selected first overall in the 1989 draft, the year that I was born, and went on to lead his team to 3 Super Bowl championships.
Wow.
He earned 6 Pro Bowl selections and was the MVP of Super Bowl 27, cementing his status as a clutch performer in big moments. Raised in California and Oklahoma, he starred at UCLA.
UCLA.
In high school, he was an all-state football player and also a standout shortstop. Since retiring, he's been a fixture in the broadcast booth and even launched his own beer in 2022. Let's get on Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman.
And Ninko.
I love Troy Aikman.
Why did you pick Troy Aikman for the dude that you want to get all over on?
So I picked Troy Aikman because, number one, when you're a kid, you're influenced by the best teams and the winners, right? So when I was a kid, I grew up in Chicago, the suburbs of Chicago. The Bears sucked, right? They had Cade McNown, and they were just terrible.
Ooh,
remember?
Yeah.
Another UCLA guy. So for me, the Cowboys were the team. So I had like the bedspread, and I had the Cowboys like in the bedroom, like all the, you know, I had the border around my room. The Cowboys had Emmitt Smith on the wall, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin. So, you know, for me,
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a poster of him, but he had great hair.
Still does.
We go.
Great hair.
Yeah.
Still does.
Looking fly.
So, and he was just like, Troy Aikman is just a tough quarterback. Like he was a guy that would just take a big lick and just keep going, right?
Gritty.
Just gritty. And, you know, I had a chance to talk to him a couple of times. That beer company that he's got, 8, I do believe, like he sent me a whole like beer and stuff. I was so pumped. I'm like, Troy Aikman sent me a beer.
What type of beer is it?
It's a light beer, because if
how does it separate from other beers?
Well, his beer is a light lager. It's very light because
he's got light lager hair.
He's a health conscious guy. Like if you watch his social media stuff, he's jacked for, you know, how old he is.
58.
58.
Like he looks great.
He looks great.
He does.
And, you know, unfortunately he had to leave the game a little early because of the head stuff that he was taking. He was
Doesn't
taking
sound like it when he talks.
Yeah.
He sounds great.
Talks well.
He does a great job on television. And, you know, I think he's one hell of a dude.
You ever meet him?
I've never met him in person.
You've never met Troy Aikman?
No.
Troy Aikman.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
You ever talked to him?
Actually, I take that back. I take that back. You know, you do the pregame stuff.
Yeah.
I met him at one of those, and I was like
what
starstruck.
Game? Where at?
I think we were in Cincinnati. I think we played in Cincinnati.
Okay.
That was the game that, remember, like we had that monsoon. It was literally like
13.
Yes, we were coming back. It was the last drive, and
we just started out.
We had a fumble. We created a fumble right there. I think Dev created a fumble. We got the ball back.
We couldn't throw it.
Couldn't throw the ball. Like literally, it was. We got craziest rain. We had the craziest rainstorm right when we got the ball. I think Vonnie Holiday had a strip sack on Tom.
I was hurt that game.
If you ever met him, what would your first question be to him?
Probably just you know, how did you stay so successful for so many years when you guys were the team? And like we were the team, but that's like the team. And that was in the 90s too. And they were back-to-back Super Bowl champions. So I think it was 92, 93. And then that was the team that they killed Buffalo. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary, The Four Falls of Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing.
Very sad.
I'm from Buffalo, Nico.
I know. Oh, yeah. Remember.
But I was so young, I don't remember any of that. Like I
don't.
Like I don't remember any of that when that all happened.
My last game was Atlanta.
Which is good.
Right? Do you ever think about the other side? Like those guys, like how terrible that must feel for them?
For Atlanta?
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime I see one of the guys,
Like,
they always
I feel because Matt Ryan, anytime he does anything, they ask him about that. And it's like, at a point, I would just be like, shut the fuck up.
I know he had
stupid
He
questions.
had like a hell of a career. He made so much money. I mean, threw for so many touchdowns, and all people bring up to him is, hey, like what happened in that game versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl? That sucks.
When I watch those documentaries, like the Four Falls of Buffalo, and I see like some of the guys, and now they're older, and I don't know if you've seen some older NFL players, but it's pretty depressing. You know, it's like, holy shit. Like I wish they would have won a Super Bowl for those guys, right? Now I'm happy that we were able to make that happen and win that football game, but I kind of sometimes have, you know, a little bit of empathy for those guys that didn't win a Super Bowl.
Definitely.
Because you lost a Super Bowl as well.
Yes. So we know what it feels like to lose a Super Bowl. It's probably one of the worst feelings that you can feel.
The worst.
And you almost would rather, now I say this, and I don't know if you feel the same, I almost rather not play that game, rather just like lose the AFC Championship game and then say, oh shit, next year we'll get back there. Because when you get to the Super Bowl, and we had it, and not only was it a shitty loss, it was in Indianapolis.
That was the worst.
It was like, who thought like, oh, let's have a nice Indianapolis Super Bowl. It's going to be freezing, and there's only one cool steakhouse, and there's really nothing to do here. St. Elmo's.
It's actually a great host city, I heard, though, like for like conventions and shit. For like the viewer and the fan, if it wasn't freezing,
it sucks.
They have hotels. I've heard it's a really good like hosting city.
Almost as bad as Minnesota.
That was freezing. That was 11 under.
Yeah,
it was 11 degrees under.
So whoever
zero.
makes those like that decision, let's stay the warm
you gotta
climate.
build the stadium up. It was a newer stadium. I mean, that's come on.
I was just in Indy. You know, like you said, they need some warm weather there.
Yeah.
It's all right. You know, they do a decent job hosting that many people. I was at the Indy 500, so there was over 400,000 people in the city, and they had enough hotels, enough restaurants and all that, but it's kind of run down a little bit. And talking about that Super Bowl game as well, that's why I got so hammered after the game, because I didn't want to remember anything that happened.
I don't remember anything.
Exactly. I don't remember it either.
They put a safety video out on like a good chip, and the NFL put it out, and they showed the clip that I actually got concussed in. So I'm coming off the tackle, and literally like the second I get off the tackle's shoulder, Brandon Jacobs is running to the flat and flippers me on my chin. I stop and I drop in coverage, but I'm not supposed to be in coverage at all. And I get off the field, and Maddie's like, hey, what happened on that play? I'm like, what play? I don't remember. Like, I got hit. He's like, yeah, you got hit. I said, dude, I don't remember anything. So I don't even remember playing in that game.
So you know how crazy dangerous this game was or is.
Yeah.
And especially for a guy like Troy Aikman, who took a lot of hits.
Yeah.
What does he do better that makes everyone else? What does he do better than anyone else? What is his great thing?
That makes him elite.
Probably his consistency. Because if you watch like just what he does now, it's how he prepares for television, and then how he takes care of his body. So literally to get in shape or to be fit, it's just discipline and consistency. So like for him to be so good for so long and then transition into the booth and be so good for so long, he has to be consistent. And he has to be able to do that over and over and over again. And I think that's why he was so successful in his professional career. And then when he went to television, he's been even probably more successful, right? He's stuck around for so long, and he's still doing it at such a high level. It comes back to probably what he was so good at when he was a professional football player.
You know, I really like that answer. And to all you young bucks out there, it's all about consistency. It's not about doing it once, having a one-handed catch, you know, that day, or running so fast and blowing by the safeties and having a touchdown. But if you can't do it the next day, well, then you're not going to make the team. You're not going to make the cut. And what's so interesting is that we asked Slater what made Brandon Schooler so great as a special teamer to make him an all-pro last year. And he said the same thing because Matthew Slater coached him. And he said it's his consistency. He brought it every single day to practice, and then it transferred into a game. And now we just talked to you, and we asked, hey, what makes Troy Aikman so great? And you said it's his consistency, just how he prepares, how he went out there to be great on a daily basis. So if you want to be great, it has to be at a consistent rate every single day. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be good today, I'm going to try hard today, and I'm going to take off tomorrow. No, you have to be great every day, and you have to bring your A game every day, just like Troy Aikman, like Ninko's saying.
That's right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Dude's a beast.
And talking about Troy, If you had the chance, if you were playing back in his era, what do you think it would have been like to sack him?
Would have been awesome. I'd have loved it. You know, you watch 90s tape, 2000s. The game has definitely evolved. It's changed. It's a lot different. Now, I'm not going to be that old guy and it's like, oh, these young kids today couldn't play back in the day. But I would say the receivers nowadays, the tight ends, the quarterbacks, like, and I think Tom's even talked about this. You back in the 90s and early 2000s, like you had a responsibility to take care of your receiver. Like, hey, I'm not just going to throw this lead a receiver on a slant and there's a guy sitting right there. You could take him out of the game. You could
take him out for a week.
Take him out. Right. So, you know, when I watch those guys back in the 90s and the 2000s, I think that it was probably the hardest and most physical the football, like the game, the sport has ever been, because the rules weren't adjusted.
And it was the apex of where they had the like more athleticism speed, and they started training in the off season and shit.
So you had speed, you had strength, and you had subpar equipment. So like those guys were still wearing like the cork bike helmets that they were wearing in the 80s, in the 70s. They were wearing that shit all the way their whole career.
But they were faster and bigger.
Yeah. And all hits were legal too. The crackback was legal.
Like there are guys.
You can blindside someone. You can just tee off with someone going up the seam.
There are guys.
I've seen it. I've seen someone, I think Howie Long gouged someone's eyeball out.
The quarterbacks just absolutely got derailed too.
There are guys that are in the Hall of Fame that couldn't play in today's game. They just couldn't play because of the way that the physicality of how they hit people. Like a John Lynch. Like John Lynch right now couldn't just decapitate people over the middle.
And that was his game.
That was his game.
Ronnie Lott.
So it doesn't fit in this era. It
doesn't fit in this era. So for me, it's like those guys, like I have all the
think it's two-hand touch out here now.
I have all the respect in the world for that era of football, because not only they weren't making the crazy money, they were building the game up to where it is right now.
Yeah.
And like now the guys are getting paid crazy money. And we were talking about before the show. We were getting paid
crazy money too, compared to the guys before us though. That's how it goes every generation.
It's the evolution of the game. I mean, like a baseball player, like they're probably like, oh my God, you see what those guys are making $700 million and they're going to make that when they're 50, 60 years old. Like the Ohtani contract, where he's going to make $30 million when he's 55 is nuts, because they defer everything down the road.
Yeah, so he can be in Texas when he ditches, so he doesn't get taxed on it.
Exactly.
Back to who's the favorite quarterback that you've ever sacked? Since we're talking about sacking Troy Aikman, what about you in your career?
Brett Favre.
So Brett Favre, I can't officially call it a sack for Brett Favre because he intentionally grounded the ball, so that takes away your sack, which sucks.
You had Brett Favre?
Yeah. I'd say probably Manning's. I got the Manning brother. I got both of them, so that's good. Grounded sack. Yeah, so they don't consider it a sack. I'd probably say Peyton and Eli. Those are two good ones. Because Peyton, when I was at Purdue, I went to it was a Thursday night opener at the RCA Dome, and they were playing the Steelers. And I went there I went there my senior year at Purdue, and they were playing. After the game, he went to this bar, and the agent that was trying to recruit me like took me to the same bar. And I remember looking at like, that's Peyton Manning, right? And then fast forward like 12 years, and I'm like sack fumbling them and stuff. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, smearing, giving them business.
And what's the moment that stands out the most to you in Troy Aikman's career?
Probably, from the transition, because a lot of guys, there's only 3 ways to leave the game. So it's your way, their way, or injured. So when you leave injured, mentally, it's kind of hard to just really take that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to accept the fact that you are being pushed out of the game that you love. And when you're playing football, like that's your everything. Like you love it, right? That's all you know because you've been doing it your whole life. So I think probably the most impressive thing is his transition from leaving the game not on his terms and then going into the booth and being really good at it.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, his career is great, but I think the television aspect of it, because what he does is not easy, right? Like the game is a flow and you got to be on it. And yeah, he's with Joe Buck, and that guy's, he's got the voice and he's like right on it, but to come in and to come out and be good and have chemistry, it takes time and he's worked at it, obviously.
It's called 6 Super Bowls in 20 years at Fox.
Yeah.
And he's been at ESPN since 2022.
Yeah. Good old ESPN.
That's your spot, Bubs. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
What kind of dude is Troy Aikman? Is he a stud? An athleticism freak? He's had the pedigree his whole life. The football IQ's there. He's well-rounded. Is he a freak? Unparalleled physical ability. One of one. Instinct. You see him, you're like, that's not human. Is he a dog? Relentless, motivated, physically, mentally tough? Is he a whiz? Intellect, innovative, clutch? Or is he a dude's dude? A positive attitude or negative attitude in the locker room that makes a guy relatable and great for the locker room.
And don't you
This
worry,
one's tough.
Ninko.
This one's tough.
We're going to ask you a series of questions later in this episode to figure out
I'm ready.
what type of dude you are
You
too.
are.
So,
So,
get ready. So
can
think
I-
a little bit about this one.
Okay, so this is tough because you can't just say like, oh, he's a freak or he's a like. It's tough because to be a quarterback, you have to have a lot of intellect. You got to be very smart. So
Yeah.
he's definitely got a little whiz to him. He's a stud because he's #1 overall pick.
He's definitely a stud.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a stud.
no
he
doubt.
looks like a stud. His
And-
face looks like a stud.
Yeah, like he's got that.
He's got
just-
a stud
whoa,
voice.
He's got the
Just
he's a
everything
stud.
about him.
So
His
I'm
aura.
gonna go.
But he's also-
I'm going combo on this. Okay, I'm gonna
No,
say stud.
There's no such thing as a
Nope,
combo.
there's
What is
no
this?
combos in this.
Fuck.
It's one.
All right, he's
The
a
one
stud.
category
He's a
that
stud. Hey,
dominates the
I was gonna
most.
explain. I was gonna
Stud.
explain though, and he sells beer, right?
Mhm.
He's got his own beer, so that's kind of like a dude's dude. So I'll stay with stud. I'm
Mhm.
saying he's a stud. He's a
But
fucking stud.
He has a little bit of attributes in him as a dude
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
But
Well, a lot of guys
mostly
have.
he's a stud.
Yes.
Yeah, but he is a
He's
stud.
a stud.
Yes.
He went to UCLA. The California kid became the fucking
Mhm.
America's team's quarterback. Won 3 Super Bowl. Like
Yeah.
he's a stud.
Now an ace in the broadcasting booth.
Ace.